Man, please, you wannabes that never see me. Murderous schemes turn dreams into bloody scenes that get sleazy at. Believe you me, be easy. Misunderstandings leads to tragedies. Wouldn't wanna be a casualty. Egos make fools confuse reality.
Yo, what's happening? What's shaking? Hopefully you're making of the day everything you set out to make it. You know, I had something on my mind and I thought I'll make time, to share it with you real quick. So, if you got the time, check this out. I was thinking about what W.E.B. Du Bois was saying about double consciousness, speaking to those of mine, of like lineage, like heritage, like kind, the double consciousness that we have to adopt by way of how society is laid out systematically. You know what I'm saying? How a way to adapt to society or within society. So that double consciousness, you have to toe the line and know when to apply who you are naturally in the situation and how people expect you to carry yourself in order to proceed, in society. That is, if you subscribe to that desire, wanting to be accepted and assimilate into society. He was speaking on that double consciousness that's necessary for that to be a success, And thinking about that, I was like, when it comes to us, we have dual consciousness naturally because of our history, because of where we come from, our lineage. And I'm gonna explain why. And again, you don't have to buy into what I'm about to, share with you. This is just what I was thinking about. And so tell me what you think. The way that our ancestors' bondage in this country occurred, nobody knows, assuming that the people who are telling us how it happened, assuming that they're not fully telling the truth. Based on that assumption, follow me real quick. Nobody knows our history because all that history of what occurred to our ancestors might have been passed down verbally, but them stripping us of our ability to educate ourselves as far as their language, learning how to speak, and then also write, we couldn't document the stories that might have let us know how we really came to be in this country, That being said, those of our ancestors who did manage to learn to read and write, more times than not, their documentation was autobiographical. They spoke about their personal life, not necessarily the stories that might have been handed down from those who were in bondage before them. No disrespect to them, because their contribution to our culture was necessary. Their autobiographical stories and stuff like that was necessary to get an idea of what they went through and how they came up. I respect it. But what I'm saying is our history wasn't documented according to the stories as far as how we came to be in this country. Now, that being considered, think about this. If that's the case, who's to say what you learned in school, from elementary, middle school, high school, sometimes in college, because it seems like they teach the same thing on every level, but they just kind of intensify that same teaching. And it's outdated, you know what I'm saying? If you don't believe that, that's you, but how I see it, it's outdated, it's not necessary, and half the time it's not the truth, if not all the time. Because I feel like a piece of the truth ain't the truth, but you might not agree. So for the sake of conversation, it might just be half the truth and not the full truth. So I'm saying that to say, just because what they told us is what they told us doesn't make what they told us true. So therefore, who's to say that those who were here and had the land stripped from them, you know what I'm saying, their resources, their livelihoods, their women, their material, their resources had it stripped from them upon invasion, who's to say that those didn't commingle with the ones that were brought over here by way of the water, And in that commingling, that's how we came to be. Hence the dual consciousness. Two different, you know what I'm saying? Two different civilizations becoming one. Not that they're apart from each other, because maybe the ones that were here, I'm saying maybe, but this is what I believe. But so you can feel me, maybe the ones that were already here were from a tribe that was across the water, that just happened to be here first. They came first. And then when the invaders came, and those of ours who were here, fed them the knowledge on how to grow and develop crops and to feed themselves and nourish themselves, taught them how to fish, taught them the terrain, and on top of that, gave them knowledge and understanding about where we came from, across the water. Because think about it, when all that was going on, all that was simultaneous. You know what I'm saying? By the time they came over here and landed on Plymouth Rock and started doing all that to the natives, you know what I'm saying, those who were already here, slavery was still going on simultaneously. Our ancestors' bondage in this country, that slavery, to be specific, that was going on simultaneously. And by the time they made it to the Constitution section where they voted on, how to maintain what they conquered, what they acquired, we were already our ancestors were already subdued as prisoners of war. I'm gonna touch on that too. But we were already subdued as prisoners of war and subjected to what they laid in place, you know what I'm saying, in their constitution, protecting their property. You see? But it was all happening simultaneous. And the Indians we see today, no disrespect to nobody's tribe, what they identify as their tribulations in this current day, no disrespect, but if you understand or know or study history, if you find time to just go look it up, check it out, to confirm what I'm telling you, the Indians that we see today are a whitewashed version because they signed to be considered $5 Indians to get the allotments, the land allotments, the resources, the grants that were going to be granted to those who the Europeans pillaged when they got over here, those of ours who they pillaged. But those who had darker flesh didn't get the resources. The ones that looked closer to the Europeans got it. Because when they came over here and started mingling with all our women and started procreating and stuff like that and all that kind of stuff, those of ours, once brought over here, that same thing occurred, co-mingling and all that. Of course, what spawns from the woman, you know what I'm saying, is a combination of the two who were entangled, engaged, connected, unified. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, as time goes on, you kind of see who commingled with who. So the ones we see today more so stayed among the Europeans, which is why their flesh is the way it is. No disrespect to nobody's flesh, skin tone, color, all that. I'm not on that. I'm just trying to relay this point to you. That's why the ones we see now are fairer skinned. Whereas the ones that we are the ones that commingle with the natives here. And why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this to say that right there, that commingling between those of ours from across the sea and those of ours already here, you know what I'm saying? That right there causes that dual consciousness, because as of now, we don't know our history fully. There's different accounts. We could choose what account, but the options of the accounts of our history is what's causing the confliction and confusion. We haven't identified that we were already here, or we came from across the water, that we got conflict about that. To me, why isn't both plausible? Why wasn't our ancestors brought over here as well as already being here? And then we are the result of that union, causing that dual consciousness internally, like spiritually, not trying to get along in society, but knowing who we are, to self-identify. Because right now, everybody's having an identity crisis. We don't know what to identify as, where we come from, what we aim to get. You know, everybody got 30 million different answers on what we need to achieve to get to what we need to get to, because of that dual consciousness, that dual, you know what I'm saying? Double-minded, because we've yet to grapple with from which we come. How you gonna know where you're going if you don't know where you came from? So I feel as though the ones here were the ones that, believing that the newcomers were coming in good faith, taught them pretty much everything they needed to know to in turn subject the teachers. And as far as our women, the creators. You know what I'm saying? And then therefore, within that knowledge sharing, we probably share, we come from across the water that way, you know, because think about how quick it was when they went, after they did what they did to the natives here, and then they ended up bringing more African melanated people over here to, you know, bolster their system, you know what I'm saying? boasted their little conquest. Think about how quick that happened. Because if they were just on some explorer kind of Christopher Columbus, like they tell you, and they were just randomly going across the sea, it would have took them decades to find, you know what I'm saying, solid land to put all that in motion and then have a specific place to come back to. Nah, somebody navigated you. Somebody pointed you in the right direction, bro. For that to happen so quick like that. So therefore, again, I submit to you, you can either decline or accept. I'm saying we are both one and the same. Those who are already here, if you feel like, yeah, this is our land, we were here, we built it. I believe all that. I agree 100%. We did build this. We made this thing go the way it's going now and still making it go the way it's going now, you know? You know what I'm saying? We did that. But don't be in conflict with those who say we were already here. Don't be in conflict with those who say we come from across the water, because that's true too. That's true too. They did, because upon the knowledge that was given to our ancestors here, told them where to go, they went prisoners of war. Because I believe they came telling those of ours who were already here that they're fleeing for their lives. Like kind of like we had sympathy for their plight, trying to escape the British rule and all that kind of stuff. Because those were the degenerates that came to this land, you know? And they're supposed to come, scout the land out, see what resources there was, trade, and then bring what they got back. You know what I'm saying? But when they got here, they were like, we're not leaving. They treat us like, you know what I'm saying, boo-boo back over there. Why would we go back that way? Let's make it happen here. Now, you know, they conspired, became a cohesive unit amongst themselves. You know what I'm saying? Being in foreign land, they had to. That's what any prudent civilization would do. And that's human nature too. You know what I'm saying? It's not because of more intelligence or, you know, or yada yada yada, you know. It's because that's human nature. And if you choose to act and proceed upon that natural, instinctive, you know what I'm saying, necessity, you feel me, or desire, then of course something will be manifested from that. So of course they had to become a cohesive unit to deceive those who are already here. We being generous, we being who we are, you can still see it in us today, you know, still, you know, peace unto you kind of thing. We sharing. They come to take, to rape, to pillage, to steal, to destroy, to kill. You see what I'm saying? And then therefore, upon the knowledge we shared, more casualties for their, you know, as they little prisoners of war kind of situation. Because you got to think, the times are different. How they treat prisoners of war now, I'm pretty sure it's pretty inhumane. But back then, you talking about a whole lot of craziness, like scalping and, you know what I'm saying? So slavery wouldn't be a far course way off of what they would do to prisoners of war. Because they didn't know that America was going to be what it was going to be. They didn't have the goal of, okay, we're going to get these people to work and then we're going to do this and try to trade. They was doing to solidify what they had. And because they had resources that were able to subdue, they had more modern equipment, more able to subdue a people or a person, you know what I'm saying? But in this case, a people, a group, you know what I'm saying? They were able to exert their force to solidify what they conquered by wicked means. And then, of course, said our language was wrong, said they gave us a religion, which was wrong, by way of their interpretation, you see? And then destroyed our ability to educate ourselves on the new custom. Why do you think that is? In my opinion, I think that's because they didn't want the history to be passed down. If you can't document what went on with you, how would the next know? Unless if you relay it. And then if you relay it, you got to think. You know what I'm saying? We weren't speaking the English we were speaking then now. Because we coming from a foreign land, so we don't know the dialect. And they didn't sit us down to teach us English. They just needed us for one thing. You see what I'm saying? Once we became prisoners of war. You see? They wanted us for one thing. To make their machine run. You feel me? So therefore, why would they sit and teach you the language? You gotta learn on the go, on the fly. So what's relayed to, of course, what you bring into the earth is what you influence. So of course, the mother's tongue became the child's tongue, as far as speaking. But then once we started becoming more acclimated into the society and things started to change, those of us who left from among us to go get educated by our oppressors learned a new tongue. So the dialect that was understood before is no longer understood, because not just because you could probably understand the tongue of your mother or your predecessor, you know, but as far as your interpretation, how you see it, your vision or point of view has been muddied by what you learned from those who despise you. So now your interpretation is going to be tainted when you document it, because you're coming from an impartial place, and then, you know, of course they're the ones in charge of your learning, which you were fed. So you're going to be a little bit partial in your thinking to what you just been fed. And though you're trying to come from an impartial place, not being dedicated or devoted to from which you come, you know what I'm saying? Because everything has partiality in it. If you try to go out into the world because you want to be justifiable, or you want to be of justice, and you think being of justice is not being biased, not being partial, you're a person that's on the fence, you know? And all it takes is for somebody to shake the fence and you'll fall on either side, bro. You see what I'm saying? But if you decide what side of the fence you on, you know, your aims would be more clear, instead of being indifferent for the sake of justice, because that's not justice. Justice is getting what you deserve, whether good or bad. You feel me? So that's why they stripped our ability to educate ourselves and become acclimated intellectually in this country, because they didn't want the history documented. Because if we knew what was going on, we know from which we come, we'll know exactly how to proceed forward. But as long as we still have so much dichotomy and all these different conflicts on what it is with us, how we need to proceed, where we come from, this, that, all these different, you know what I'm saying? That is meaningless at the end of the day, because you could become a cohesive unit with differences. Can you not? You could become a cohesive unit with differences, but you shouldn't let the differences outweigh your ability to move as a cohesive unit. Other cultures that are around us do it all the time. They might not agree on every topic, politically, any other topic, whatever is the conflict, you know what I'm saying? But they know how to pose a united front in the face of other cultures. So that being said, when it comes to our dual consciousness, you have to decide to decide the narrative of your history. If it's been held from you, if you know what's been fed to you is not the truth, you can set the if nobody knows, then it's up to you to say what it was. If ever that is the topic of conversation, or if that is the morale booster. Why would you pick the opposite end of positive or negative when it's dealing with your morale? If there's gray area, if you don't know what it is. So you're gonna leave it up to somebody else to tell you what it is, when you could just be like, this is what it is, and this is what I'm gonna stand on. You don't know. You don't know for sure. Your books is lying, you know what I'm saying? Your teachers be lying. You don't know for sure. And if we all say that, you know, what can they say? It's our history. They are our ancestors. I choose to look at them in a positive light, not in the servile light, you know what I'm saying? Not in the lowly light. That's why I say that I believe we were prisoners of war, not slaves, you know? We were enslaved, you know what I'm saying? We were in bondage. I cannot take that struggle from our people, because we did endure that. But what I'm saying is, we were not slaves as in that was the intended purpose of our coexistence in this society. It just happened to be an outgrowth after the war. We lost the war. We didn't have the proper armament, the proper equipment, and therefore the result of us losing the war, being prisoners of war, we're subject to what the winners in the war, the victors in the war say we are. So now we have to work to make sure we cultivate the land that we already are privy to. We know the land, we know the terrain, you know what I'm saying? It just served their purpose to enslave us after the war, because they didn't know what we knew about the land. We've been here. After we left from the motherland and came over here, we been here. And I feel like we still had connection. For us to know how to navigate and send them to a direct place to start bringing some more of our other ancestors over here, I feel like there was still a connection. But we ain't gonna speak about that right now, you know? We'll talk about that later. You see? But that was just an outgrowth of losing the war, was the enslavement, because we knew the land, we knew the layout, we knew how to make it productive before modernization and industrialization and all that. And even then, when it shifted from being actual chattel, you know what I'm saying, to being employment slaves, you know, it's the same thing. It was still to keep the efficiency going on. They didn't care about equality. They wanted the efficiency of the nation to continue. And that's the constant trade-off that this country is involved in on the regular since its inception. You know, it's a trade-off between equality and efficiency. Are they going to be more efficient, you know, in spite of lack of equality, or are they going to choose to be equal, have everything on an even playing field, and sacrifice the efficiency? Because this country is a business, and the production of the goods and then the distribution of the goods is what makes the country run. So you're going to need somebody to, you know, manufacture and create or make the goods for production, supply and demand. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, the wages might be low. That's not the name of equality. But we need this merchandise. We need these products to be made. So forget their low wages. You know what I'm saying? We'll make the next presidential candidate talk about they might do something about wages, and they'll go for that for a couple years. But that should buy us a little bit more time to get this efficiency continuing. You know what I'm saying? To keep the efficiency going. You know? It's all about efficiency. They don't care about equality. If you fight for equality, you'll never get it because people are different. I'm not trying to be gloomy. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just being realistic with you. But that's what I'm saying. If you set the standard, you create the narrative, who could say, you know what I'm saying, what's fair and what's unfair? You only speak in terms of unfair and fair when first you were expecting something and something didn't occur, but then you're waiting on an outside party to bestow what you felt like you deserved to you. And if it doesn't come, now you talk about that's not fair. Well, if you had your own, you wouldn't be begging, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, begging is not the word. I love mine, you know what I'm saying? I understand our position in this country. But when I say begging, I mean like brown nosing and kissing up to get further in life. We shouldn't do that. I feel like we're better than that. But I understand what makes that a reality. You see what I'm saying? I can understand it. But I feel like the further we get away from that mentality, the further away we get from them setting for us the standard to live by, we will be a lot better for it. No question. No doubt in my mind. We'll be a lot better for it. Because that dual consciousness is always going to be there until we hash out, you know what I'm saying, what we identify as and with. What are our allegiance to? What is our allegiance to as a whole? Because think about this. Again, this is an example about information and how it can be skewed. There was once upon a time where those of mine, my ancestors, were deemed, it took 3 of us to make 1 human being, right? You see what I'm saying? That being said, how long has this country been taking censuses? Like a census of the people, the population. So if they were taking them back then, right? You see what I'm saying? It took 3 of us to make 1 person, right? So of course the numbers are going to be off. So there are more of us than they're documenting, right? As time went on, the numbers are thrown off from that point because what was documented before was not right at the start. So then all statistics after that are tainted because the beginning wasn't proper. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying that to say, fast forward to today, how do we know the census that's being taken is what it is? And you gotta take into account too that not everybody fills a census out as well. But I guess time could possibly rectify that, you know what I'm saying? If they chose to do it the proper way today, you know what I'm saying? If they chose to shape up and be like, yo, let's really record the truth. Let's put the real deal on paper right now. You know what I'm saying? If they chose or had a change of heart, decided to do that, maybe everything that's given to us is right. You know what I'm saying? Maybe all the votes are being counted. Maybe every head that is counted that's the number. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the way we got here is the way that they said, you feel me? Maybe, you know, black on black crime is a bigger threat to us being unified than the society's repression, economically, socially, and otherwise. That's probably right because they said that. I mean, the list goes on and on. But as soon as we start setting the narrative, We can choose to reject what we feel like ain't beneficial to our growth. I think I shared this before. Morale is important for growth. So if somebody tells you what you were, what you will be, you know what I'm saying? What you're gonna do, you know? And it's not for your benefit. They don't care about you. You know what I'm saying? They're not philanthropic. They don't want to see you succeed or thrive or nothing like that. But they're telling you how you're supposed to live your life to succeed. 9 times out of 10, that's gonna be a negative. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be negative for your spirit. You know? If their standard of success goes against your principles, you know what I'm saying? And the way they're telling you gotta carry yourself goes against your dignity, that's gonna be bad for your spirit. You know what I'm saying? Because over time, it's gonna wear on you. Is that good for morale or bad for morale? Terrible for morale. You feel me? Personal morale. Not even speaking on your morale among your own. When you get out there and start expressing your experiences and what you've been through and your outlook and how you perceived, you know, in hindsight, what happened. Once you give the breakdown, the way you express that is going to dictate those who's listening to you where your head at, what you want. It's one thing to tell a story. It's another thing to implement how you felt when things were occurring or how things played out. You feel what I'm saying? Everybody got a story. Everybody's story not action-packed, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's story is not filled with as much heartache as yours. Some people more heartache than yours, you know? Hard times than yours. Some not as many hard times, but yet still everybody got a story. So picture this. Picture this part. You got a story, right? Picture me trying to tell you, you know what I'm saying, what happened in your life. And not only that, how you should interpret that, how you should look at it. I'm setting the narrative for your life. And then you decide to live by that. You knowing your life because you was there every step of the way. You know what I'm saying? There was no way that you weren't present, you know what I'm saying, throughout your life. You was in every situation. You was there. I wasn't there for all your whole life, but if I'm talking about from beginning to end, or beginning to the current time, not the end, you know what I'm saying? Not the end for anybody yet. Not manifesting that, it's all love, you know, but I'm talking about from the beginning to the current time. I'm the one laying out the narrative. You know what I'm saying? You was born in, you know what I'm saying, Florida, but you knowing you was born in Kentucky or something, you know? But I'm the one feeding it to you. And then not only am I feeding things that you know are not logical, not right, not true, not reality, you buy into it. And you be like, okay, yeah, I was born in Florida, knowing that you wasn't though. Would that make me wrong or would that make you insane? I got my personal opinion. You probably could guess what mine is, but it's no pressure if you think different. It's all love because I understand that it's dual consciousness. That's all that is. I'm not gonna hate you for your outlook, for your perspective. You know what I'm saying? It's all love because, again, I can't stress this enough. Nobody has it all figured out. Not one person. You might have figured out a few things. You might have figured out many things. But you don't have everything figured out because as sure as life continues to go, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring to you if you make it to tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? God willing. You see what I'm saying? If you make it to tomorrow, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Therefore, you cannot say you have it all figured out. You see? So that being said, choose how you choose to set the narrative. You know what I'm saying? How you choose to, you know what I'm saying, identify. Choose how you choose to proceed. Choose what's right for you. And then in turn, when you do what's right for you, if there's self-love, and then you're going to love anything you identify as or what you're a part of, that love is going to be manifested if you're doing what's right for you first. Because if you're making yourself take shorts, you're not going to care if the next person takes shorts, and you might be the reason that the next person take a short because you've been taking shorts and you've been allowing yourself to be in situations where you're taking shorts. Now, I understand some things are out of your control. I get that. But still stand on your dignity, have pride in yourself, love yourself, no matter how hard it get, how it look, how you think it makes you look. Stand on who you know you are, what you love and care for, what you're dedicated to, and remain that way. Don't change that because the times changed on you or people changed on you. Because people are going to change. You know, time changes. You just remain the same. You feel me? And until we get this dual consciousness understood, I feel like that'll spur us to not only becoming a cohesive unit and congregating in all earnest, you know what I'm saying, in all sincerity, but I also feel like that'll do us good later for the younger ones that's coming up, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, observing us and paying attention to us and seeing how we handle things, how we accept things or don't accept things, what we reject and what we accept. And they're paying attention, and we're setting the standard, I would say unintentionally, unconsciously, but, you know, nonetheless, we're setting that standard by way of observation, what they're seeing. So if we get it squared away now, if we get it tightened up now, they'll only follow, at least at the beginning of their life. Because, you know, as you go become an adult, you start to become more skeptical. You start to form your own ideals and outlooks and all that. But I'm talking about in their formative years, at least they'll have a set of principles that are solid for their beginning before they go encounter their own experiences and experience the world, you know? Give them something that's solid, you know what I'm saying, that nourishes their being, you know, that they could stand on. Even if they feel like we had it, if they realize that we had it wrong in our moment, because people can't be wrong, even if they realize we had it wrong and then they have to shape a new understanding or a new idea, you know, give them something to stand on at the beginning that's, you know, dignified, that's prideful, something that's willing to be somebody, something that'll make somebody willing to stand on, is what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? But yeah, that's a thought that crossed my mind. It's no disrespect to W.E.B. Du Bois. I felt what he was touching on, because that is true. For the sake of assimilation, a lot of us do have to grapple with a dual consciousness. You have to be one way out in the world, and then when you're among your family, your people, you can cut loose a little bit. Like how people hop on the phone, if they having like an interview or something like that, or they doing it like a little business call with a corporation, they voice switch up a little bit. It's kind of like that. I think they call that code switching. I think that's the same thing. But I understand that for the sake of progress, you know? Never forfeit your principles though. If you have to go out and employ different methods for this because of that dual consciousness, if you forfeiting your being, like who you are, your principles, what you stand on, what you will and won't accept, just to do that, to assimilate and be in, then your double consciousness is a detriment to you, and you're a detriment to the rest of us. You feel me? But there are ways that you can adapt where you don't have to sacrifice your principles, you know? And that's just the way of, if somebody has it all, you know what I'm saying, and you trying to squeeze in to get a slice for your people, you know, for yours, there's certain things that you have to, there's certain ways you have to proceed to make that happen. Let me put it like that. You know what I'm saying? And at that, I'm gonna leave it right there. You know, have an enjoyable day. Hopefully you get all you feel like you deserve in this day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Venomous intentions are potent when unspoken. What's the use in hoping for a change of heart when from the start the possibility for peace at the very least was dark? When in the midst of weak back actors lacking heart, it's enough to make you spark the flame. Gotta set ablaze the streets that keep wicked police on the beat, who's never convicted in courts and never punished by so-called G's. Where do we stand? What's the plan? How can we demand respect with no chain of command? Guns in hand, ammunition abused and misused when